Okay, everyone, welcome. My name's Laura Sneeringer, and I'm here to help facilitate this conversation tonight. But actually, I think what we're going to do is if you have a burning question as we go through, a clarifying question, just raise your hand, and Craig, who will be presenting, Craig Casper, will repeat the question in the microphone and then answer it. We're videotaping this tonight so that we can share this presentation online with those who couldn't make it tonight. So, again, if you have a burning question, raise your hand, and Craig will answer it throughout. Otherwise, we'll take questions at the end of his presentation. Craig.
Good evening, and thank you very much for coming. Ooh, where's the power? I need to stand away from that. I'm going to try to be brief but entertaining because we have, to me, a very interesting topic, and we want you to enjoy having come out so you come out again. Okay, so is it this one? There we go. So we are doing a transportation plan for the Pikes Peak region, which is not an intuitive region. It's the area you see highlighted. It looks kind of like Texas that got distorted. Central part of Colorado. It is the census-designated urban area for Colorado Springs, plus the area that we say is going to reach urban density in the next 25 years. It includes from Monument on the north to Fountain on the south, Woodland Park on the west, to out just east of Schriever on the east. We've been doing this plan for about 3 years now, almost exactly 3 years. We've got 13 goals that we worked with different agencies and the public that we're trying to achieve with the funds that we have for transportation. And the vision that we came up with, it's a repeat of the vision we had for the 2035 plan, is to create a sustainable multimodal transportation system that meets the mobility and accessibility expectations as essential elements of the Pikes Peak area's quality of life. We have the 13 goals. The process we went through, you can see spelled out there, vision. We came up with a vision. We came up with goals and performance measures. One of the things we try to do with our plan is not just to have a goal, say we want to make transportation better. We said, this is 2015. By 2025, we want to accomplish X. By 2035, we want to accomplish Y, so that we can measure it as we go along. The population is the core part of where we start. The population of the Pikes Peak area in 2010 was about 650,000. By 2040, we're supposed to be just over 1 million people. There are nuances within that population that we also take into account. We're not just, the population isn't growing on its own. What you see is the dark blue is the distribution of age. So what you see is our population is aging. We're getting a higher percentage of population that is not able to drive well or able to drive at all. This is the location density of development of houses in 2010. So we look at where people are living now in 2010, and we forecast it out to 2040. This is our forecast for where the 1 million people are living in the Pikes Peak area in 2040. So I'll give you, 2010 to 2040. The only thing we know for sure about our 2040 forecast, though, is that it's wrong. We don't know how much it's wrong or in which direction, so what we do in addition to a 2040 forecast like this is we come up with 2 additional scenarios, a scenario that looks at more of an infill and a scenario that looks at more of a sprawl or accelerated trend. And we bracket, we're hoping with those 2 scenarios, we're bracketing the future, and then we evaluate all of our projects against all 3 of those scenarios. 17,480. I'm going to play a game, put up numbers, and see if you can guess what it is. That's the number of households in our region that have no cars. We have to take that into account. We have an additional about 45,000 households that have 2 workers in the household, but only 1 car. So that's 65,000 households in our region that is transportation challenged. They can't just use cars to get to work easily. 35 hours you spend on average sitting in congestion in a year. That ranks us about 75th in the country. So it's actually pretty good. $277 million that we pay in direct cost of crashes. That's repairing cars and medical bills. That's not secondary lost wages or anything like that. That is just pure direct economic impact. This is actually my favorite number, $1,092. That's how much the average U.S. citizen spends drinking coffee in a year. Why is that important? Because $235 is how much the average driver in Colorado pays total to support our transportation system. So people are spending between 4 and 5 times on coffee than they are on a transportation system. And this includes funding for transit, for the maintenance, for building new roads, everything. $1,350 million, $1.3 billion. That is how much backlog we have in pavement maintenance right now. $300 million, that's our backlog in bridge work. So our backlog in maintenance, just getting the system we have now into good condition, is $1.6 billion. $6,650 is what every household would have to pay to bring that system up right now. The road system, I'll go briefly through the road system right now. This is our expressways and freeways. There are 4% of our roads that carry 43% of our traffic. Just added in the arterials. The arterials are 14% of the roads and carry 43% of the traffic also. Now we're getting into the smaller roads. Collectors, 14% of the roads, 5% of the traffic. And at the very end, 68% of our roads are local streets, and they carry about 9% of our traffic. We know then, with the limited maintenance funds we have, that we want to focus on the busier roads. So you can see the interstate is about 75% in good condition, whereas collectors, about 29% are in good condition. The poor condition interstate freeways is about 10%. So we, CDOT, and the local entities are really good about putting the maintenance funds where they make the biggest difference as far as driving, but that doesn't mean you're not driving on bad roads. And what people remember, we know, are when they hit the potholes. So 11-mile trip, 10 miles on good condition, you have 1 mile of bad road, you're going to remember that 1 mile of bad road. You're not going to remember the 10. So we're trying to figure out how to fund that backlog of maintenance. $690 million needed to fix the bridges in the next 25 years. Our bridges, just like the population is aging, our bridges are aging sort of in the same way, and so they're reaching their useful life, and we have about $700 million of bridge work that we need to do. This is a map of all the bridges in our region. You can't see its eyewash from yours, but every bridge in our region is shown in good, fair, or poor condition. So we know individually what each bridge, and every other year, each bridge gets looked at. The reason for our issues with funding is the last time the state or federal gas tax was raised was 1992. And in 92, it was 20 cents per gallon for state, 18 cents per gallon for federal, total of 40 cents per gallon paid on gas tax. In 2015, it is still 22 cents per gallon for federal, or for state, 18 cents for federal. If our legislators had thought to themselves, well, there's such thing as inflation, costs go up as time goes on, if they'd indexed that gas tax to match the additional construction cost, we'd be paying 54 cents in federal tax and state tax and 44 cents in federal tax, 98 cents per gallon. If instead of that, they'd said, let's make it a percentage of the price of gas, like a 4% sales tax. If they'd done that, we'd be paying 69 cents in state tax, 57 cents in federal for $1.26, which, by the way, those numbers, that we wouldn't have the $1.3 billion backlog. We'd be about where we needed to be. But we'd be paying an extra $1.26 on a gallon of gas. Life's full of trade-offs. One of the common discussion points we hear, especially when we talk about transit, is transit needs to pay for itself. So we did a study and said, okay, let's look at, based on vehicle miles of travel of the average person and miles per gallon of the average vehicle, what roads are paying for themselves. This is a map of all the roads in our region that pay for themselves. It's slightly bigger. It's about 5% of the lane miles of our region are paying for themselves. Everything else is being subsidized at some level. Crashes, looking at crashes, one of the interesting things we found out is we have about the same number of deaths from traffic accidents as we do from murders in our region, and about the same number of injuries as we do assaults. In 2012, though, we had something unusual happen. We had the same number of people died in car crashes in our region as died as pedestrians that were killed. That put us number one in the state and really at the top end on fatality rate of pedestrians in the country. That's one of the things we're looking at is what can we do to bring down our pedestrian fatalities. We have a very unusual number of pedestrian fatalities in our region. We looked at when crashes happen. This is every hour in an average week. So we took 5 years of crash data and looked at when crashes happen in a week. So from midnight on Monday in the top left to 11 p.m. on the bottom right on Sunday. And we saw there's a definite pattern. Friday afternoons, especially from about 2:30 on Friday afternoon till about 6 o'clock Friday afternoon, you just don't want to be on the roads. There is a significantly higher frequency of crashes on that time. And then on the bottom left, let's see if I can do this. This is, I find interesting. From 1 to 2 o'clock, Friday night to Saturday morning, and Saturday night to Sunday morning, we have a peak bar time. The bars close, and we have a peak of crashes, especially fatalities. So what we're doing now, we held a traffic summit with all the enforcement agencies, some of the engineering, and we're going to look at what can we do to start focusing some attention on that. Transit, we look at transit. This is the map of the transit routes, or if you could see it, it'd be a map of the transit routes. It serves the core of our urban area. On service, it's about 30 minutes to 60 minutes. But how does that compare to around the country? So we looked at per capita. This isn't total invested. This is how much each region puts in per person that lives in the region. El Paso, Texas, and a military area a lot like ours, they have a Fort Bliss there. They put about $64 per person in. Fort Collins with the university, they're on the Front Range, they're kind of like Colorado Springs. They put about $60. Omaha, $48. Wichita, the only one we found that's actually less than Colorado Springs at $28. Albuquerque, $65. Denver, $141 per person going into their transit system. Virginia Beach, another military area with some similarities, Colorado Springs, $61. And there we are at the end, $31.75 per person invested in our transit system. So that gives you an idea what our investment in transit looks like compared to some peers in our region. We went through a process, an extensive process, to figure out non-motorized walking and biking to work. We have about 5% of the people in our region walk to work, and that relates to the number of households that have no cars. We have about 1% that bike to work regularly, even in winter. So we went through a process, looked at where can we make improvements to increase that biking. We came up with 10 corridors. We actually developed 95 corridors. We have 10 corridors that, or 11 corridors now, depending on how you break them down, that are priority corridors that we need to really make some serious investments in. And specialized transit. That aging population I talked about at the start, they need some of them are going to need special ways to get to work. We have the 5 different agencies right now that provide trips. Metro Mobility, which is part of the city of Colorado Springs, they provide about 62% of the trips in our region. Silver Key is the next biggest. They're primarily for aging services. They provide about 20% on down to Fountain Valley, which is about 8 or 9% of the trips. So these are the different modes that we looked at. So that is a really brief summary of our transportation plan. In addition, I can tell you that we have about $1.5 billion in funding for the next 25 years. We have about $6 billion in known needs. But Chapter 8 of our plan, I'm trying to get everybody to go out to the website and download the plan and make comments, is where you see the list of those projects that we are right now including in our funding list.
We do encourage you to provide comments on the plan. You can either do that tonight in the back corner, or you can do it via email through October 9th by emailing ppacg@travel.org, and it's on travel.com? No. Oh, travel@ppacg.org, and it's on the little participate flyer that we handed you when you came in. And then one last thing is Kaiser Permanente, the city of Colorado Springs got a grant from Kaiser Permanente, the Walk and Well grant, and there's an online survey that we would really appreciate people doing either tonight or when you get home. We can provide the link to you if you don't want to do it tonight, and that's in the back of the room. So take a look around, talk to all of the people here who can hopefully answer your questions, and make sure you take a closer look at the website and get any comments in through October 9th. Thank you.